Hello, my beautiful people. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depends where you are in the world. It's nice, bright, beautiful, sunny afternoon here. I always talk about the social issues, the things I observe in the society, in the country, and at the whole in the world. But today I'm going to share a story with you. And to be honest with you, it took me so many years to find the courage to talk about it. Sometime I used to write about it, but I used to sit down with a pen and paper for hours, but I didn't know where to start from. Revisiting those moments, revisiting that time was so terrifying for me that I just could not face it. I had been through that, and thanks to God, touch wood, I got over that and lived a normal life like a normal person. But I think somewhere inside me, that fear, that ugly feeling, that horrible experience was sitting in my system. And it was reminding me all the time that I need to speak up, I need to talk about it. But that talking about it was not for any particular reason. Like if there is a medical negligence, then there is a limit. Within 3 years, you have to report, otherwise, you can't claim. So this was not a claim. I was not interested in claim. I was not interested in defaming anybody. I was not interested in taking the frustration out. But I always thought if I talk about it, it can save some other people. Even if one person can listen to this video or read, if I would have obviously written about it, if they could just see that this also happens. It's not that only this happens. There are very good doctors there, and from the childhood, we've been told trust your doctor is right, listen to your doctor. Even doctors, they've got so habitual, they think these days they don't even talk to you. They actually tell you, give you the verdict. And there's no patient doctor relationship anymore. And I'm talking as at the whole. I'm not saying those few cases, those few doctors who still probably talk to their patients like on human to human basis and consider their problems and their fears. But unfortunately, it's not very common now. And I'm sure some people will agree with me, if not all. This happened back in 2002, decades ago. And I'm talking about a hospital in Essex, Haroldwood Hospital. And it all started in a way, I don't know, this is why I was not talking about it, because I was feeling so, I was just feeling so, not scared is not the word, but I was feeling so apprehensive. I was just feeling that I can't talk about it, because as soon as I talk about it, the feeling comes back. And when the feeling comes back, then one can get emotional, one can get probably upset, So, and I didn't want to project all those emotions. I just wanted to talk about it as a story that this happened, not because I am the victim of that incident, but because I don't want anyone else to be a victim of that kind of horrible medical negligences. You should you should always trust your doctor. That's right. You should listen to your doctor. But I will say also use your common sense. Weigh the things. Talk to your body. Have the whatever feelings you're having in your body. That is very important. Communication with your body. Some people will laugh, but it is true. You can communicate with your body. Your body is alive. It's not just you're in a box or in a bottle. You are in a living thing. The body is alive. Every organ is talking to each other. Every cell is communicating with each other. Let's not go into all that science. Video will get very, very long. So anyway, but always check with your relatives, check with your friends. Don't go just by what the doctor says. Because I don't want this to happen to other people. And it was such a horrible feeling that I just can't express it in words. And because I'm a strong believer of God, I still believe that God saved me and God gave me the strength to continue my life as a normal person. Otherwise, the psychological and emotional effects of that incident could destroy me. But thanks God, it didn't happen. Anyway, so back in 2002, my husband died in 2001. In 2002, I had some gynecological problem, horrendous bleeding, and I had to go to the hospital. And they actually detected a polyp hanging to my uterus's mouth. And they said, well, we'd have to take it out. I never had an operation in my life. My children were very young. My husband was dead. My son was literally just a year and a half old, actually 1 year old. And my daughter was also just 2. So I was actually very worried that I don't want to go under the knife. And when the lady who was doing my ultrasound, when she said, you're lucky, it's benign, it's not malignant. And I said, how do you know? And she said, I've been doing it for 25 years. So that just gave me some reassurance. But anyway, still I was very, very scared and worried and stressed out. My husband's cousin, actually, God bless her, she helped me, my late husband's cousin, and she came over because I didn't want to leave my children with social services and just with people who had been hired. So she actually supported me so much. She was such a great help. And my cousin, my father's cousin, they both were actually a great help. God bless them both. One is dead, my father's cousin is dead now. But anyway, so this polyp was removed. So anyway, they gave me an appointment. They said it's just going to be a biopsy from down below and we'll do it. And I said, fine. And then it was done. And after that, they told me they've given me internal stitches and they're dissolvable. So they will dissolve in 10 days time. And then before that, until then, I can't lift anything and I can't do any heavy work. So I tried to avoid that, but how much can you avoid? With the such young children, because my husband's cousin was only there for when I was gone for my biopsy. But the next day she had to go back to work and she lived in a different town, so she was not there. And I had to cope on my own with my 2 very young children. Anyway, I was avoiding picking up my son and trying to take it as easy as possible. The 10th day came like, it felt like 10 years. And when the 10th day arrived, I actually decided to go and do some shopping for my children. They needed diapers and food and whatever, with the children, and we all eat. So especially in children's homes, you must know, you need things every now and then. And I had waited for 10 days. And then when I went so I called a taxi. And the taxi driver put my children's buggy, it was a very heavy double buggy, in the boot. And we got in the taxi, we went to the supermarket, we did our shopping. And then when we were coming back, I called another taxi. And this time the taxi driver was a different person. That's all I can say. And he said, well, you put your buggy in the boot, it's not my job. So I said, okay. So he opened the boot for me and I put the buggy. As soon as I lifted the buggy, I thought I'd done something wrong. Anyway, I put my children in the car and we came home. By the time we got home, I was bleeding like you open the tap, that sort of heavy bleeding, horrendous. And then I called the hospital again. And this time when someone picked up the phone, even last time when I was bleeding so much, they told me I'll come to the hospital. I couldn't go to the hospital. There was no one to stay with my children. So I decided to stay at home. And they said, okay, keep your feet up and keep drinking plenty of water and come to us in the morning. So that was last time. So this time, when this bleeding started, I called them and I said, well, this is what's happening. And they said, oh, either you come to the hospital or you just keep your feet up and just keep drinking water. And we have sent a letter, it's on its way to you. Um, and Miss Tebbett was that consultant, that surgeon's name, the woman who did the first biopsy. And they said, well, she wants to see you. And I said, what is it about? And they said, well, you'll find out when you get here. Anyway, before that letter comes, the very next morning, because obviously I was bleeding so much, so I called my cousin and he took us to the hospital in his car. When we got to the hospital, my daughter was with my cousin in the waiting area, and I went in. And Miss Tebbett, that woman, unfortunately, I have no respect for her. She was sitting across the table, and there was another lady sitting in the corner. I cannot forget that room and that room's coldness and that environment. It was quite scary. And then Miss Tebbett said to me, "Oh, I've got a bad news for you." And my son was sitting on my lap, and she said, "I've got a bad news for you." And I said, "What is that?" And she said, "We found some cancer cells in your polyp." And she also gave me the name, leiomyosarcoma. And she said, it spreads so quickly, so that's why we need to do all the checks on you. And we don't know how far it's gone. That was obviously, you can imagine, a single mother with two very young children sitting in the hospital and getting this news. It was like, seriously, it's just indescribable for me. I just cannot describe that feeling. So I was crying. My son, because he saw me crying, so he was also crying. He was only 1 year old and 1.5 year old. And I just didn't know what to do. My cousin was outside in the waiting area. They put me, because of the bleeding, they put me on a wheelchair. They set my son on my lap and pushed the wheelchair to the waiting area where my cousin was waiting with my daughter. And then my cousin took me for a CT scan, and then I remember my son was crying so much, and I could hear him because he was with my cousin. Obviously, he was not so familiar with my cousin, so he was crying so much. My daughter was outside, and then anyway, they did my CT scan. Then she put me through every single scan. Bone scan was the most horrible one, because if any of the people who are watching this video, if they have ever experienced a bone scan, they must know that they inject you with the nuclear. It's nuclear, I think. And then after that they have to because so they can see all the bones transparently, and then they put you in a box sort of thing, and they don't let you come out because they're checking you. And then you can't go anywhere near the children under 12 and pregnant women. So I was told not to do that. So I had to arrange, because my husband's cousin couldn't come over, so I had to arrange someone else to stay with my children, which was from social services, I think. And that lady stayed with my children. And when I was getting all these checks done, I used to quietly leave the house without telling my children that I was going. And that was just so horrible, all that emotional and physical stress. It was just something that I just don't want to remember. And then when I got there, so they did my blood tests, they did CT scans, they did MRI. They didn't have MRI at that time, so MRI was not there. CT scan, bone scan, different type of ultrasounds, and different type of chest x-rays. So I went through so much radiation and so much medical not procedures, but this process. And then they after that, every time when I was seeing Miss Tebbett, I was saying, because I just had a faith, because I still had that faith, and I was being that kind of religiously strong person. I was saying that, one day you'll be wrong, I'll be right, and there will be nothing. And she was saying, and I was feeling fine. All my tests were coming clear, thanks to God. And that bleeding also stopped. She put me on some kind of tablets. So I was taking those tablets to cluster the blood. So obviously I don't have the bleeding, but the cause was obviously still unknown. But then after all the tests came clear, then obviously there was no reason to think of a cause. Medically, at least, they couldn't find anything. And so I was actually, uh, so I was just going to the hospital whenever I was, obviously I had an appointment with her. And this is what I was saying. And she was saying, you're in shock, and that's why, but we'll fight it and all that stuff, overconfidence and all those, wording that means absolutely nothing. But then after that, 15 days, maybe 3 weeks, I think, were gone. I don't remember exact time, but it felt like a lifetime. And then all those checks, I was so uh, exhausted. And then after that day, one day when I got there, she said to me, "Oh, I've got a good news for you." I said, "What is that?" And she said, "Unfortunately, it was a pathologist's mistake. So there were no cancer cells in your polyp." Now, if it was somebody else, maybe they would have started saying, "Well, what have you done to me in all this time? You put me through so much, medically and emotionally and physically. Why would you do that?" But no, I was still calm and quiet, and I was very happy that God has given me my life back, thanks to God, and that's it. Some people said you can sue the hospital. Some people said you could have questioned, and I said, well, it's best to just move on in life. That's it. I'm not looking for making money out of that hospital. I don't want to defame her. I don't want to do anything. So I literally wanted to move on. Up to this time, up to this moment, it was still not too bad. Then what happens? Then she said, "Oh, I want you to," in her words, "I want you to have hysterectomy." Now, I don't know, I've never heard a doctor saying this kind of thing. Maybe doctors can suggest, but they can't say, "I want you to have this." But anyway, so I said, "You want me to?" She said, "Yeah, it's for your own good, because you've got 2 children, your husband is dead, and you don't want to have no more children, so it's best if you get hysterectomy done." And that was such a big decision. And she said, "Otherwise, this polyp can happen again, blah, blah, blah." I mean, anything can happen in the body. Can somebody tell these doctors, these highly qualified people, that body is so unpredictable? Anything can happen. Why they talk about the possibilities and even distant possibilities? They just scare you. Anyway, so I said, "Let me talk to the people." And she was like, "No, no, no, it's fine. Look, it's for your own good. Do it." Being a very young, of course, I was a young woman. So I said, "Okay." And I came home, and she's already booked me for hysterectomy. Next day, next morning, she's going to do my hysterectomy. All those instructions: don't eat, don't drink, blah, 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 blah. So I came home, and this time, again, my husband's cousin was over. She came over to, to just see what's happening. And then I discussed it with her, and she said, "Well, you're too young. How can she decide that you want more children or no? How can she decide that you should have it?" Well, this is not obviously the right way of dealing with things, and it shouldn't have come from a doctor in such an instructive way. So I agreed to that, and I thought, yeah, I don't want that. And she also said, "You live with your 2 young children, and after your hysterectomy, you might not even be able to lift a full glass of water. For 3 months, you would have to, 10 days you could not spend easily without lifting anything. You were waiting for that 10th day to come so you can go and do your children's shopping. So how could you wait for 3 months? And who's going to help you?" So that made a lot of sense. So I came back to this woman next morning, when they came to check on me and say, "Well, we're just going to give you the anesthesia." Now, she's given me anesthesia, general anesthetic I'm talking about. And the people who know, now obviously everything is on the social media, everything is on the internet. You can find out how it affects the general anesthesia, how it affects to your body. And this woman, she gave me anesthesia last time when she did my biopsy, and again obviously she was going to give me general anesthesia. So when she came to me, I said, "Miss Tabit, I don't think I want to have this done." And she said, "What?" And I said, "Well, actually," and before I say anything else, she literally shot out of the room. literally, like she was so upset. It was like I've asked her kidney or something. And I was still sitting astonished there. What's happening? Why is she so upset about it? It's my body. If I don't want to get it done, then means like it's okay. But no, then there was an Indian doctor who was her assistant, and he walked in and he said to me, he tried to convince me. Now, when I look back, obviously when you're young, no matter how highly educated you are, no matter how much world exposure you have, but still you're young. Still there are so many things that you don't really look into at that moment of time. So I did not think why these people are so interested. I had no idea. So when this doctor came and he started literally convincing me, I said, I've already said I don't want to get it done. Means like I don't want to get it done. And he said, oh, you got a strong head on your shoulders. Now, I don't understand why I shouldn't. But anyway, I said, oh, please, can I go home? And he said, no, we'll just do the final checks and then you can go home. And I said, how long will that take? Maybe 10-15 minutes. I said, okay. Oh, just fill in, just sign the form. The nurse is bringing the form. Then the nurse comes in running and said, the consultant is waiting for you with her team in the surgery room. So we have to take you in. And I said, why they want to do surgery now? And she said, no, it's just, they will just check everything is okay. And she didn't let me read that. Yes, my bad. Yes, I should have insisted I want to read it. But when you are surrounded by people who are literally, somehow just being so pushy, and you're the only one, sometimes it is difficult to to think. I don't know how to say it, but I just probably so I signed that without reading it, and she's gone. Then they gave me general anesthesia, and then when I woke up, I was like somebody has beaten me up like anything. I couldn't even get up, and even in my that some kind of sleep, I could hear people panicking, saying the pulse is sinking and the blood pressure is down, whatever, so many things. But that I could hear. And then when I woke up, I tried to get up, and the nurse said, "Oh, it's okay. Don't get up yet." And I said, "Why?" Because they've done your laparoscopy. And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Oh, it was just a little procedure. They just wanted to check everything is okay." Now, I didn't understand. Laparoscopy was not needed there. She had done all the tests on me. She had done all the blood tests. She had done all the scans, x-rays, everything. And there she's doing laparoscopy. Why? So I said, I don't understand. And she said, well, I don't know. I said, normally when there is a procedure, something happens, like if you have a minor or major or any kind of operation, ethically and professionally, it's the surgeon's duty, I will say, that they should at least come and visit you and ask you how you're feeling. She was nowhere to be found. And I asked the nurse, can I see her? Oh, she's gone home. No, she was gone home. Butchers. I got the right to say this because they put me through this. So I said, and this is happening in NHS hospital. So I said, I don't know, how can I talk to her about why I can't get up? She's like, it's okay, we'll call a cab for you. We need the bed, right? They needed the bed. So we need the bed, and we're going to call a cab for you, and we'll put you in the cab. I said, but I can't even get up. First she said, call somebody from home. I said, who do I call? My husband's cousin is staying with my children. My children are too young, and I don't have a husband, and there's no one else who can come in and pick me up from the hospital. So they said, okay, we'll put you in the taxi. They called the taxi. They gave the taxi driver the hospital's number and my home number and said, well, if she, gets, if she's not feeling well, or if she, I don't know what was the word, but anyway, what she meant is like, if she is unwell, just bring her back to us, and inform the family. Anyway, the taxi driver took me to to my home. And when my husband's cousin came out, she still, when we talk about her, she says, "You looked like somebody's literally rubbed turmeric on you. This is how pale, yellow you were looking." And I couldn't stand. Anyway, so that's what happened. Unnecessary procedure, just out of ego. Because I said no to hysterectomy, that means like she had to do this to my body. I felt like I'd been raped. I felt like somebody's taken liberty on my body, which she did. She was an NHS doctor, Miss Tablet, working for Haroldwood Hospital in Essex. Thank God, I've heard that Haroldwood Hospital has been closed. Well, I don't know when this closure happened, but thanks to God, it happened. Because what they did to me, I'm sure they must have done it to other people too. God saved me. So anyway, then I got a chance because that I obviously didn't know. I'm not a medically qualified person, so I didn't know what they do when they do laparoscopy. So they actually blow you up, literally, to see, and it's like thin skin and like a balloon, so they can see everything inside you. Now, I didn't understand what was going on, and I was waiting to see this woman, and when she booked an appointment, they're obviously big people. They are big people. It's not easy to see them. So it took quite some time, and when I'm going to see her finally, and I said, when I laugh or when I even talk, my whole body actually goes up and down. So what's happening? And she said, well, because we had to reach. And I said, why you did my laparoscopy? And she said, because we had to take your liver's pictures. If anyone who knows a little bit about medicine, please tell me what a gynecologist was doing taking my liver's pictures. If you're a doctor watching this video, then please reply to me. Please give me a satisfactory answer. And if you're a journalist, please send me a comment. I definitely want it to be more visible for people. I want it to reach out to more people so they don't become a victim of such a butcher doctor like her. She was a monster. And then I said, well, why my liver's pictures? She also showed me some pictures that I couldn't look at. And she said, well, we just had to take your liver's pictures. I came home totally, completely unsatisfied. And I kept on, I didn't want to think about it because I was feeling so scared. Every time when I wanted to think logically about it or talk to someone about it, I was closed off. I just didn't want to talk about it. So it took me quite some time to start opening up and then asking people, did she steal something from my body? Did she took samples from my healthy liver? What was it? Do they get paid extra if they do a procedure? Some people said, well, because, maybe she had, the assistant, those junior doctors, the medical students lined up already for a procedure. And when you refused for that, so she decided to do something else. Although it was not such a big procedure, thanks to God, but yeah, something else, which was like laparoscopy. And so I was a guinea pig. I had to be shown to those people, and that's why something was needed to be done. If this is true, that this is why she did it. If she did it because she was so egoistic, mentally sick person, and she thought, how dare me saying no to this hysterectomy, and that's why she did it, then again. So basically what I'm saying, today I've just somehow found the courage to talk about it. The video is reaching 30 minutes or something. But please forgive me for this such a long video. It's not only my catharsis, but it's also my thoughtfulness for the people young mothers. When you're young, you don't ask many questions. You just go to a doctor and they say, well, get this done, get that done, and you just think it's all okay. Check with your parents, check with your relatives, with your husband, wife, friends, whoever. Don't just do it because your doctor is saying. Because I don't want anyone to have, and even to this day, I feel it was horrible. And maybe not completely, but to some extent, I have lost my trust in NHS doctors, in doctors in general, but in particular, NHS doctors. Well, this was it. Please leave the comments. If you had an experience that you want to talk about, please write in your comments, share it with me, share it with other people. And I will just say, God forbid, if anything like this happens to anyone, don't wait like I did. Don't hide away. Talk about it. Speak up. I didn't speak up. I did not talk about it in time. Now when I talk about it, it's like, oh, and this is so unrealistic when they say, I tried to bring it to NHS attention, and they said, oh, it was long time ago. So what does that mean? Am I dead? It happened to me, and I am here, and I'm still, in my memory, still suffering from that horrible experience. Whenever it comes back, I can't sleep in the night. So how that is done and dusted? For them, it was done and dusted the very next minute when I walked out of the hospital. But for me, it's never been done and dusted. Look after yourself.